أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How are you all? Can you hear me? Very good. Alhamdulillah. Excellent. Welcome to our fourth class. We're going to continue with chapter 2 inshallah. But before we do, I want to give you a question, and I would like for you to take a few minutes to read this question carefully and then answer using the poll. I'm going to post the poll in just a second. So take a few minutes to read the question and answer the question, and then I'm going to discuss the answer, inshallah. Okay, we have still 4 students who have not answered. Just take a minute and select an answer based on what you understand so far, and then we'll discuss. Very good. So here is your response, and as you can see, you're very divided. So let's look at the right answer. The right answer is A. The right answer is A, which is a response for more students than any other choice. Now let's see how that is. Why A is the right answer. We have Al Shabab Fashion that specializes in making T-shirts, and we have 2 things that we need to code. The first one is size, and the second one is color. So we need to have group codes, which involves 2 things, right? Size and colors. How many sizes do we have? Think about it. We have 9 sizes, Omar. Very good. We have 9 sizes, right? We have small infant, medium infant, large infant, small children, medium children, large children, small adult, medium adult, large adult. So we have 9 different sizes, and we can number them 1 through 9, right? We can number them 1 through 9. So how many different blocks we need, first of all? How many different blocks we need? We need 2 blocks. Very good. Which automatically minimum, right? Minimum. One for size, the other one for color. So the question asks how many minimum we need. Now in the first block, if we block the first block for sizes, how many digits we need to have in that block? In the first block, how many digits we need? Digits. No, not 9 digits. This is a digit, right? And these are 2 digits, right? So in the first block we need 1 digit. So we can have, for example, 1 equals small infant, 2 equals medium infant, right? So on and so forth. 9 equals large adult. So we can code the sizes 1 through 9, and in the first digit, right, we would have 1 through 9. So we need only 1 digit because we do not go more than 9 sizes. In the second block, we have how many colors? How many colors do we have? 13. So how many digits do we need in the second block? No, digits, 2. Very good. We need 2 digits, right? This is 2 digits. So now we can say 1 equals red, 2 equals blue, 3 equals green, like that, right? 9 equals orange, equals, I'm sorry, 9 equals orange, right? So now if I were to say, right, any size and any color, so for the first digit, which is in the first block, we would put the size, and in the second 2 digits in the second block, we would put the color. So we can use 2 blocks, 1 digit in the first block and 2 digits in the second block. Is that clear? No, why A is the right answer? Yes, Atif, you can. If you want to, You can put them in separate blocks. You can have a separate identifier for the adult and children, but that is not the most efficient way of doing it. The question asks, what is the minimum? You can have 3 blocks, 4 blocks, uh, 13 blocks even, but that's not the right way of the minimum way, the most efficient way of doing it. The most efficient way is the way that I have described, right? 1 block for size and 1 block for color. In the size we have 1 digit, and in the in the size we have 1 digit, and in the color we have 2 digits, right? So that is the minimum. We must have at least 2 blocks, and in 1 block we must have at least 1 digit, and in the other one we must have at least 2 digits. That is the minimum, and that's what the question asks. Right, 1 digit is size and 2 digit is color, right? So if I were to say, you know, uh, infant small orange, then I would code it 109, right? If I were to say adult large red, then I would have 901, right? Like that. So the first digit represents color, size, 1 through 9, and the second digit represents color 1 through 13. So since we have 13, we have 2 digits, we have to start with 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, like that, all the way to 13, because 13 has 2 digits. So you have to have at least 13. At least 2 digits, I'm sorry. Is that clear? Do you follow? Okay, very good. Okay, now let's move on to the second topic of our chapter, which is business cycles. The first topic we discussed, which was data processing cycle, which had 4 steps: input, storage, processing, and output. In the business cycles, we have 5 different business cycles that we're going to briefly introduce today, and then we're going to use a few minutes of our class in discussing the syllabus and the assignments and so forth, what to expect in this class, what I expect from you and what you should expect from me, etc. So let's discuss the business cycles for a few minutes. In any business, we have a number of different activities that are involved to conduct our business. The first one is acquiring capital. So if you want to do business, you need money, and the money comes from one of 2 sources. Either you borrow money from someone or a bank and you finance your business, and this is called debt financing. So you have a loan and you borrow the money and you start your business, and then when you start to make profit, you pay the money back. That's the first way. The second way is selling stocks and getting funding. Anyone know what that is called? What type of financing that is called? Equity. Very good. Sharat, very good. Equity financing. Excellent. Equity financing is when you give shareholders part ownership in the business, and they buy the stocks and you get the money, and then if you make profit, you can pay them dividends. Also, if the business is doing well, the stock prices go up and they can sell it for profit as well. So 2 ways of getting the capital to start your business. Once you start the business and you have a product or a service to sell, you need to market, which is the point number 2. The best product or the best service is not going to get sold unless you market that product. So marketing is absolutely essential for your business. Then you have the selling and collecting of payments. So once you sell to your customers, you have to collect payments, otherwise your business is going out of business. So if you have a bunch of accounts receivables and you do not collect on them, your business is slowly going out of business. Therefore, you need people to work in your business, so you need to hire people, train people, and pay people, pay your employees. Um, and that is also a part of your business. Number 5, you need to purchase inventory and pay vendors. Anybody know what vendors mean? What does the word vendor mean? Supplier. Very good, Atif. Very good. Vendor means supplier, right? The suppliers who sell you inventory and other items, they're called vendors. And number 6, paying taxes, right? In countries where you have taxes, and every country for businesses usually has some taxes. In Qatar, even there are no individual income tax yet, but for businesses there are certain taxes that they have to pay. So paying taxes are a part of conducting the business. Now, these different activities that the business has, they involve hundreds, maybe thousands of transactions, and they happen on daily and weekly and monthly basis to ensure that these activities are handled in an organized way and the data from these activities are collected in an organized way. We break down the business into different business cycles, and we're going to discuss those business cycles in this section of the chapter, and we'll briefly introduce them in this session. We'll go into more details in our next class. The data or the information that comes from these activities are, number 1, financial and non-financial in nature. So the data and the information could be financial in nature and non-financial in nature. You could have things involving buying and selling where money is involved, and then you could have other data such as data on the employees and data on the products and so forth, which are non-financial information. And then the sources of this information could be internal and could be external. The data and the information could be coming from sources inside the company, like an employee or a manager, or it could be coming from an outside source, an external source, like the supplier or the government, right? So far, so good. Simple, right? You understand. The accounting information system collects and sends data and information to internal parties as well as external parties. Internal parties are, for example, management, employees. External parties are, for example, customers, vendors, which are suppliers, creditors who have lent money to the company, for example, the banks or other institutions, individuals, and the government. In this process, the accounting information system gathers the data and records the data about hundreds, maybe thousands of transactions on a regular basis. So we need to define what we mean exactly when we say a transaction. A transaction is an exchange or an event that you can measure with economic terms. For example, if you have a restaurant and you have a customer coming in and looking at the food and looking at the menu and then leaving without buying anything. And if I were to ask you, can you tell me what happened? You could describe that. You could say, yes, a man came in with wearing red shirt and so forth. He looked at food and he left. But can you record a journal entry for that event? The answer is obviously you cannot. But if the next customer comes, looks at the food and buys something from you, then you give the person the food and the person gives you money. Now you can record a journal entry for that, right? You can debit cash and you can credit sales. So you can record this event using economic terms. The second event is going to be called a transaction, where the first one would not be, right? So most transactions can be recorded with a journal entry. It can be measured in economic terms. Is that clear? In any business, we have hundreds and thousands of transactions taking place on a regular basis. So to organize these transactions, we break them down into business cycles. We organize different types of transactions and we break them down into business cycles. And the 5 most common business cycles are financing, revenue, expenditure, payroll, and production. And if you put these first letters together, it's spelled FREP. So you can remember this with the coffee frappuccino. Usually if I'm in class, I ask the students to say FREP, and then I ask them to say frappuccino so that they can remember. While we are not in class, I would still ask you to say it, but I cannot ensure that you're saying it because I cannot hear you. So it would help you remember the 5 business cycles: FREP, financing, revenue, expenditure, payroll, and production. In our second part of the course, we're going to have individual chapters on 4 of these cycles. So we're going to have a chapter on revenue cycle, a chapter on expenditure cycle, a chapter on payroll cycle, and a chapter on production cycle. This is going to come in the second half of the course. This chapter gives a brief introduction to these 5 cycles, and we're going to discuss just a little bit, and the further details will come in the individual chapters. The reason we need to discuss them a little bit in this chapter is because to understand chapters 3, 4, 5, you need to have an idea about these business cycles, at least a brief idea, so that when they're mentioned, you know what we are discussing, what we are talking about. So far, so good. Any questions? You understand? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. Very good. Now, we have these 5 business cycles, and they are called business cycles because the transactions in the business cycle continue and they happen again and again. So they're coming in cycles. They're happening and then they're happening again and they're happening again and again. So the first one is the financing cycle, because we start the business with the financing cycle. The financing cycle funds the business. There are 2 ways, as we discussed. We finance the business initially with debt financing, with equity financing, and money comes from either one of these 2. Once we start the business, the money comes from the revenue cycle. The revenue cycle's job is to sell products and services to customers and collect payments. So the money comes from the revenue cycle as well as the financing cycle. And you see this general ledger and reporting system in the middle. This is the accounting information system that collects the data from all of these cycles as transactions are taking place, right? So the job of the accounting information system is to collect the data and produce information. And in order for us to do this properly, we need to know the functions of each one of these cycles. So the first is the money that is coming from either the financing cycle or the revenue cycle through sale to customers. Then we have the funds going into the expenditure cycle to buy goods and services. So anything the business purchases, it's through expenditure cycle. And all goods and services except payment to employees are made from the expenditure cycle. Now, sometimes in a question in the exam, the student gets confused between the two, and I want to clarify this so that you don't make this mistake. So listen carefully here. If you have an employee working for an organization, then their payment comes from the human resources and payroll cycle. But if you have a contractor providing service for the same organization, then the payment would come from the expenditure cycle. For example, if you have an accountant working for Qatar University, has an office at the administration building, and getting paid for the services that he is providing Qatar University with, and he is an employee, his salary is going to come from which cycle? Expenditure or payroll? It will come from payroll. But let's say you have a security guard who's working for a security company that the university has hired, and that person is outside or inside a building providing security services. The payment to the security company by the university comes from which cycle? Human resources or expenditure? It would come from expenditures. Why? Because the university does not pay the individual security guard. It pays the security company. The security guard working at a building in Qatar University today could be working at another bank or other organization next month, but the university would continue to pay the security company because the security company decides which security guards work where. The university has no control over that. They just have control over whether the service is provided or not, right? You understand the distinction, the difference between the expenditure cycle and the human resources and payroll, right? Human resources and payroll cycles job is to pay the employees who are employees of the university, right? So if the employees residency permit expires, it's the university's job to go and renew that. But if the security guard's residency permit is expiring and the ID needs renewal, the security company is going to be taking care of that. The university only pays them for the service. Okay, is that clear? This point is clear? Okay, very good. Now, the human resources job, human resource and payroll, their job is to hire employees, train them, promote them, fire them, and evaluate their performance, and they're funded from the revenue and the financing cycles because those are the only two sources of funding. And as you see, data is going into the general ledger and reporting system. Then we have the production cycle. The production cycle gets labor from the human resources and payroll cycle. You remember studying in the managerial accounting class, the direct labor and the indirect labor. Do you remember something like that from your managerial class? Yeah. So that comes from the human resources and payroll cycle. Production cycle gets the labor from the human resources, and it gets the raw material from the expenditure cycle. You remember the indirect material, the direct material, the overhead, all of that is paid for by the expenditure cycle. So those two come together in the production cycle, and then the production cycle produces goods. These finished goods, remember the three different types of inventories in the production cycle: raw material, work in process, and finished goods in your managerial class. Does it ring a bell? Do you remember this? Okay, so the finished goods now is given to the revenue cycle, and the revenue cycle's job is to sell the goods to the customers, and the customers make the payments for the goods and the services, and then it goes again, the funds goes the funds go through the financing cycle into the human resources and expenditure, and then the labor and raw material come to the production cycle, and then the finished goods are produced, and on and on. It's going on and on, right? So in each one of these cycles, there are a number of activities that we're going to get a brief introduction to in this chapter, and we're going to do that in our next class, inshallah. An in-depth discussion of each cycle we're going to do in the second half of our course, and we're going to address 4 cycles: revenue, expenditure, production, and payroll. Financing, we will not have enough time to cover 4, so we are going to 5. We're going to select 4, and those are revenue, expenditure, production, and payroll. And we're going to continue from here in our next class. Are there any questions related to what we discussed today? Everything is clear what we discussed today? Anybody awake out there? Okay, very good. All right. I'm going to take a few minutes to discuss the course details and answer any questions from you. I have opened the microphone, so if you want to ask a question, you can use your microphone and you can ask instead of typing. It would make it easier for you, because you might have a number of questions in relation to the course details. The syllabus is posted in Blackboard, and it has an agenda on the last page which details each class, what we're going to do in each session, what we're going to do, and the different assignments and weights and so forth. There are 2 assessments now so far, based on what we know, based on the situation of the COVID-19 cases. We have directions from the Supreme Education Council, and this is across all educational institutions, schools, colleges, universities, and we're going to follow the instructions based on their directions. We're going to do what the instructions are. Now, you understand that the situation is as it comes. Nobody can predict. So if things change, inshallah, maybe in 1 or 2 months, if everything becomes normal, then there may be a revision to what we are doing, the methods and so forth. So far, the classes should continue online, and the midterm exam and the final exam are going to be face-to-face. So when, how many students, what date, and so forth, that will be announced eventually, inshallah. What we know now is that the midterm and the final exam both are 30%, and both have 4 chapters in each. The midterm is going to be either in the 6th or the 7th week. We are in the 2nd week. This is the 2nd week. So either 4 or 5 weeks from now, the midterm will take place, inshallah. And as soon as the date is finalized and the arrangements are finalized, I am going to let you know, right, where, when, and so forth. So we're in the 2nd week. Hamad, the exam is going to be either in the 6th or the 7th week, right, as you see on this table. Is that clear? So far, so good. Are you with me? Okay. So chapters 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, that's right, Hamad. That's what I said. We are in the 2nd week, right? So it will be either 4 weeks or 5 weeks from now, in the 6th or 7th week. Okay. And I posted this information before the beginning of the first class. I'm just discussing it right now because the drop ad finished yesterday, so we have everybody in the class right now. Okay. Exactly what type of questions will be in the exam, how many marks, etc. I'm going to discuss that as we get closer to the exam, inshallah. Once the exam questions and the dates and so forth are finalized, I'm going to give you more details on what exactly to expect in the exam. Okay. Normally, under normal circumstances, uh, the students are given an opportunity to look at their grades, their exam papers in an office hour or in the classroom somehow. What will happen this semester, whether you can have a look at your paper and so forth face to face or not, this I don't know the answer to that question. So I'm going to let you know once I find out. But in the past, from my past experience in my class at least, I have taught this class, the Accounting Information System class, more than 30 times at Qatar University, and more than 1,000 students have been in my classes. So of those instances, maybe less than 5 times I had to adjust a grade. So an error, inshallah, is something that I try to make on the high side. So if there is an error, I would like to make that error by giving somebody more and not somebody less, right? So this is my policy. This is my philosophy, that I don't try to make an error so marginal that maybe I'm giving somebody less. It is possible that I've given somebody more, and that is an error that I would like to make, as opposed to the error of giving somebody less. Okay, now those are the two assessments that will take place face to face for now. As for the other assessments, right now the plan is to have them online or through Blackboard submission and so forth. The first of those assignments involve quizzes. There will be 4 quizzes, 2.5% each, all multiple choice. And the first one is on chapters 1 and 2. The second one is on chapters 3 and 4. The third one on chapters 12 and 13. And the fourth one on chapters 14 and 15. The dates for those quizzes are given in the syllabus, in the agenda on the last page of the syllabus. So you can look at them, and those dates are given to you right now, and they will not change unless there is an extraordinary situation. The lowest of these 4 grades will be dropped, and there are no other extra assignments other than what you see here. And as you see, there are a lot of different assignments already. So please don't ask for an extra assignment or an extra quiz. I'm telling you from right now, take each assignment, each assessment seriously, so that you don't fall behind. I have 2 sections of Accounting Information System. Both of them are loaded with students. Alhamdulillah, many students. So to give extra assignments or to grade extra assignments, it creates an unnecessary load on the instructors. And there are not only 2 sections of Accounting Information System, but there are more. There are 8 or 9 sections, and 4 different instructors are teaching the courses. So this is pretty much what I'm showing you is standard assessment in all the sections, either if I'm teaching them or somebody else is teaching them. So the lowest quiz grade will be dropped. If you miss one, that is going to be the lowest one. If you miss more than one and you have a valid excuse, then I'm going to deal with each case individually. I'm going to see the seriousness of the matter, and I'm going to decide whether it was a valid excuse or not. During the quiz, if you're taking the Blackboard quiz and you get dropped, somehow you're disconnected because of the connection, or for whatever reason, Blackboard not functioning properly, then I am going to handle each case individually. For time being, the grade will be left alone, and then I'm going to give you instructions on what to do, how we're going to handle the missing quiz. If you were dropped, you started to take it and somehow you were dropped, right? for time being, the course grade, the quiz grade will be left alone. Whatever you had, if you answer 2 questions, it will remain like that. And then I'm going to give you instructions depending on what happened, depending on whether it was your individual internet or the blackboard itself dropped, and many students had this issue. Depending on the situation, I'm going to handle the situation. What I need from you is to be patient and to not stress. So anything that happens unusual, just relax and it will be handled, inshallah, in a favorable way. It will not harm you, inshallah, if any of these things happen to you. You should be patient and you should relax. Also, you should put in a reasonable amount of effort, an effort that you can reasonably put in based on your individual capacity. Not every single course is exactly the same for every student, and you know this by now. Some students find certain courses easier than others. You'll find you're putting in a little bit of effort and your grade is excellent, whereas in another course you may be putting in a lot of effort and your grade is not that good because you just don't simply like the content or the assessment, or some aspect of the course is just not your course. That's okay. You just have to complete it. You just have to complete the course for you to finish the degree, and then those courses where you do well, that will increase your grade. So you should not stress. You should know that there is very little or no connection between high GPA and a successful career. So if you're an accountant or in any profession, your success as a professional is not explained with high GPA. In other words, students with high GPA do not necessarily end up doing well in their careers, and students with moderate or even low GPAs do not necessarily do poorly in their careers. Some students are uh, smart, but they're just not good at taking exams, right? And they are well in some things, they're very well in some things, they do very well certain things, and some other things they're not very well at. So in life, you just have to find that which you're good at to be successful in your careers. So you should not overly stress over the grades. You should try to do well, put in a reasonable amount of effort, and then accept the outcome, inshallah. The next assessment piece is the computerized AIS, where we are going to use a computerized a software to record and process data and produce information. And the training will start on September 6th, and the exam is going to be on October 4th. And I'm going to give you detailed instructions on what to do and how to do well in this. If you follow the instructions, you should get full marks in this, inshallah, most of you, if you're careful. The uh, process of processing the data, the way of processing the data and producing the information is not complicated or difficult. The thing that is needed is being careful with the processing so that you don't make silly mistakes and lose marks. And I'm going to give you detailed instructions. The only thing that you need is an internet connection, and the rest I'm going to, inshallah, uh, give you instructions on. Muhammad has a question. Uh, I haven't come to the projects yet, Muhammad. I will come to the projects and I'm going to discuss that, inshallah. Okay? Just be patient for a little bit, inshallah. Okay, so the computerized AIS, the instructions will come on September 6th, inshallah. There is a separate exam on chapter 5, and the students in the past had difficulty when we included chapter 5 in the midterm, because chapter 5 is larger than any other chapter. And there was not enough time for them to prepare, and the midterm was too difficult when chapter 5 was included. So we took that out from the midterm. But if we went to include that in the final exam, then the final exam became too much. So we separated chapter 5, and we have a separate test on chapter 5. Thus far, this test will also be on Blackboard. Because it is just one chapter, it is going to be easier than any other test, the midterm or the final exam, and you should try to do well in that. This is one of those pieces where you can study hard. This is just one chapter, and you can do well in that, inshallah. Okay, now outside the computerized AIS, we have two projects here, Project A and Project B. Now, when we had the face-to-face class, the first project I used to call the manual AIS, where I showed the students how to process the data without a computerized system by hand. And it involves paper and pencil, me writing on paper and pencil and demonstrating it to the students, and the students following as I write using the overhead projector and the camera. But this is a little bit difficult to do now, so we are going to do something different. The Project B, which I used to do, I used to call that Future AIS. And again, that was a group project, and that is still possible to do. But this semester, I'm going to do something innovative with you, and it will involve multiple intelligence. And I don't know if you have heard of something called multiple intelligence. Anyone here heard of something called multiple intelligence? No? Okay. You know, multiple intelligence uh, involves different types of intelligence that different individuals have. For example, some people are very mathematically oriented. They're very logically oriented. Some students are very verbally oriented. They can write well, they can write a report well. Some students are visually oriented. They can prepare nice presentations or posters, etc. Some students are interpersonally oriented. They can give a public speech. So it's different for different students. And I'm going to try something with you which will be helpful for you, inshallah. It will increase your performance, and it will increase your understanding as well. And I am expecting that you will be satisfied with it more so than a one-size-fits-all project. So what does this mean? What we are going to do here? We're going to have two projects, and exactly how the projects are going to be, I'm going to discuss them after I find out about your multiple intelligence. I'm going to give you an assessment. So the first project is going to be assigned on 6th of October, and I'm going to give you an assessment to complete. A few questions you have to answer, and I'm going to find out from that your preference, and whether you're logically oriented or verbally oriented, or you're visually oriented, or you're interpersonally oriented. Are you good in math? Are you good in speaking? Are you good in uh, are you good in uh, making presentation? Are you good in preparing a video? I'm going to get that information from you first, and then I'm going to give you a generic project, right? Something that everybody will complete. It will be the same for everyone. And then I'm going to give you a project based on your multiple intelligence. So the same assignment, some students will prepare a report based on their multiple intelligence. Some students will maybe make a video on the same subject. Some students will make perhaps a poster, depending on how many students we have in each type. And whether it's going to be individual or group, also I'm going to let you know based on how many students we have in different types of uh, multiple intelligence categories. Are you following? Okay. So this is going to be fun, inshallah, and this is going to be a good experience for you as well as me, inshallah. Uh, and something we have done in the past in our auditing 2 class. Any student here that was in auditing 2 with me before? Auditing 2 student? Anybody who took auditing 2 with me? Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you have done a new simulation. In your case, we had to do a new simulation, audit simulation, but another audit simulation we have started with our students back in 2016, and this year it was published in an international journal, the Journal of Accounting Education, which is now available globally to all universities, so they can adopt our assignment. So now this assignment that uh, I initially started by giving to 2 of my sections in auditing 2 back in 2016, and then in 2017, 18, 19, we gave it to other sections of other instructors, and eventually now this is available to all universities. Anybody who wants to adopt, this is available to them. It is published now, alhamdulillah. So this I expect to be something like that as well, and you are going to be the first participants, inshallah, in the multiple intelligent assessment, inshallah. And I'm going to give you more details. So the group or the individual, I'm going to decide that based on your multiple intelligent assessment, right? How many students we have in each category, we're going to see. So the details are going to come before the assignment of the first project. So the first week of October, we're going to decide exactly how we're going to proceed, and you will get ample time and ample instruction before you start. So that is more than a month away. Inshallah, when it comes, I'll give you more details. All right? So just give you an idea of what we are getting into. Is that clear? Okay, very good. Any questions so far on what we have discussed? No questions. Very good. Now, the quizzes are all multiple choice. Sharat has a question on the structure of the quizzes. They're all multiple choice. Okay. Hamad said, I forgot my question. You can ask me the questions if they come to you later. Inshallah, you can email me, no problem, anytime. All right? Yes, via email, inshallah. Okay. Now, before we end, I just like to share with you a story that I share with all my students in all my sections. And if you read me before, you heard this story. First of all, your success, your individual success, all of your individual successes matter to me. I personally would be happy to see every single one of you be successful in your career. Now, that said, the reality of life is not every student in every course will make an A or a B even, right? And that is not the final word on the student's success or failure in the career. Some courses are easier than others for some students, and some courses are harder than others for the same students. So you should put in a reasonable amount of effort. The story that I like to share with all my students is the story of Imam Ash-Shafi'i and Imam Malik. Imam Ash-Shafi'i was a student of Imam Malik, and both of them are big scholars, and we do not know who is bigger than whom. We respect both of them and we take from both of them. We do not say who's bigger and who's not. But Imam al-Shafi'i was a student of Imam al-Malik. Imam al-Shafi'i said that when Imam Malik was present, he would be very careful in handling the leaf of his paper so that that sound would not disturb Imam Malik. He had so much respect and love for Imam Malik. He also said that he studied with Imam Malik many, many years, and he never drank water in front of him because he would have to raise his hand to drink water, and he did not want to do that in front of Imam Malik. Now, the reason I share this story with you is because, we are in a teaching and a learning environment, and you have teachers, and I also have teachers. I am in regular contact with my teachers as well. 95 or 97% of the students at Qatar University have excellent akhlaq. Their manners are excellent. And inshallah, all of you are included in that 95%. But occasionally there is a student or two that come along without the right way of asking a question or right conduct, right akhlaq. And I would like to say this from the beginning, that I expect the most beautiful akhlaq from you, and you are among the best, inshallah, and you should know how to conduct yourself with other students as well as your teachers, because the akhlaq is the most heavy thing on Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the Mizan. This is the most heaviest thing. أثقل شيء في الميزان حسن الخلق. This is what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said. The heaviest thing on the Mizan on the day of judgment is the good manners. Sometimes what happens after the exam, when the exam papers are given back, the students come, and rarely does it happen to me. It had happened to me 1 or 2 times, but it may happen to you in other classes as well, that the student loses control of how to act. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my policy on how I grade. I take the grading very seriously. I look at the questions and the answers carefully. I am very careful in writing the questions. I usually write the questions as I am teaching the chapters, so that I don't end up asking something that was not discussed or covered or discussed with some detail. And then some questions are straightforward, that is for everybody. Some questions are slightly more difficult, and some questions are for the students who will make A's. So it will require thinking, but it's not outside of what we discussed. And then when papers, I try to do an overall assessment of the student's performance. And if I find a student with a low grade, I try to see if there is an excuse I can give myself to add something. And I try to give the maximum and then a little bit more if possible, so that if I make an error, it will be on the high end. And if you come and then the student starts to argue, why not have more points here and there, I can assure you that I have given you that half or 1 point in some other place, which is more than what you would have deserved. But you are welcome. If we are able to do the face-to-face viewing of the grades and so forth, you're welcome to look at your papers, no problem. And you're welcome to ask questions, but you should keep in mind how to ask a question and how to approach your instructor, your teacher, and so forth. And your success is very important to me, just like the success of each one of my children is important to me. And you will find me at your service, inshallah, now during the class and beyond graduation and beyond. Anytime you would need help, you would find me. I would just be an email away, inshallah. And I have students regularly coming or emailing and calling me, former students. And I send my students who are graduating to those students who are in a position of hiring and so forth. I ask them to at least give my students an interview if a student is struggling to find a job. So I am not done with you at the end of this course. I am going to be available for you and at your service, inshallah, for as long as Allah wills, inshallah. Okay? So with that, I am going to stop talking, inshallah, and if you have any questions or comments, you can share that with all of us, and the microphone is open as well. If you want to speak, that is also open. Okay? It is my pleasure to have every single one of you, and I look forward to a very good semester, and I hope to teach you something useful, inshallah, that is not going to be only helpful in your career, but in your life, inshallah. Sharat said the question that we had today, was it a question of critical thinking or a moderate one? It is of medium difficulty. The question that you had is of medium difficulty, but it involves critical thinking as well, right? So you had to, this is not straightforward. This is not memorizing and answering, right? So you have to think, and the questions are of all types. There are questions that are asking you about a fact, and there are questions that are asking you to think about what you have learned, inshallah. And you will find a mix of those questions in the quizzes as well. Okay? All right. Excellent. Any other questions? Very good question, Sharat. Okay. All right. So if you don't have uh, any questions, inshallah, it's my pleasure, Hamad. Thank you for your kind word. If there is no other questions, we will finish, inshallah, and we'll end early. We are not going to start anything else from chapter 2. We'll continue chapter 2 on Sunday, inshallah. Review the material, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.